Oh. Thank you for that at this late time. I'm sorry I haven't acknowledged any of that. I've got to learn how to use the camera. Oh, thank you for that. Sorry, we delayed the actions. Now this is video. Sorry, Spirit. Tired. I'll try harder tomorrow.
marriage expert John Gottman can sit with newly engaged couples for 15 minutes or less and predict with 94% success the likelihood of whether that couple will be happily married or miserable and divorced. What is his secret? How does he do it? He says the key to relationship success does not lie in candlelight dinners. It is not found in trips to Paris or horse and carriage rides under moonlit skies. It is not found in getting your partner a different gift every other week. marriage expert John Gottman can sit with newly engaged couples for 15 minutes or less and predict with 94%.
a flawless plan, actually. I had a total nervous breakdown and went to Morgan for every surgery.
Welcome to and then it comes out so clear. Well, we think they're still here. The fact that he's telling us he's still here is pretty interesting to us. The fact that he's watching and interacting like that gives me a real kind of...
You feel kind of creeped out now a little bit, walking around the basement by yourself?
No, I feel protected. And I don't feel creeped out at all. I feel protected.
I've said before, I'm very protective of what we've got here, and now maybe you're right. Maybe they are too.
Coming up, husband and wife were brutally murdered.
There's just a presence in the house.
Is it you that they hear walking all the time?
I gotta tell you, that actually gave me a cold chill.
Nothing hurts as much as seeing your team get beat, right, guys? But your team is allowed to make you feel bad. It's part of the game. But if a losing bet is wrecking your weekend, then that's different. Tell them, Dave.
When you open an account with Coral, you can set your deposit limits from the very start, so you stay in control of your own game. Bet savvy. Stay in control.
Bring some magic into your home with Disney Cakes and Sweets. A
In Margaret's normal life, but a chance encounter would turn her world upside down.
Car catches on fire.
Yes.
But contrary to the battles on the ground, this was still an apparently gallant war.
What else?
The necessary around here. Max makes it happen.
Self-conscious about the hair growth on my back.
All-in-one hair removal solution, and you too can get great-looking results.
Just try No No. I did. I saw the adverts. I tried No No. It worked for me. It works for my clients. It's amazing.
Call or go online now to order No No Pro and receive No No Smooth After Treatment Hydrating Moisturizer. Also receive this LED beauty tip to perform full facial treatments. Call or go online for this sensational 30-day money-back guarantee TV-only offer and receive No No Smooth plus the LED beauty tip. Together, these two additional beauty products are worth £68. Call or click today. No hair with no pain.
Since 1931, 5 families have run New York's Italian-American mafia, the most prolific organized crime unit in the world. Now, undercover detective Colin McLaren examines 6 notorious mobsters.
He became sort of a folk hero.
Sammy destroyed organized crime.
Even though he wasn't well built, he was a ferocious fighter. He was feared. Yeah, he was the killer. He had a really weird double life.
It was all about power and money.
Mafia Killers. Mondays at 10. Brand new to history.
Osaka, Japan. In the middle of this modern metropolis lies the Daisen Kofun, a tomb for one of Japan's long line of divine emperors. Covering over 400,000 square meters, the Daisen Kofun is considered the largest tomb by area in the world. There are more than 160,000 Kofun dotting the Japanese archipelago, each containing the remains of emperors or their royal families.
There are burial mounds throughout the world. However, there's one specific shape that exists only in Japan, and this is the keyhole kofun. Most of these can only be seen from the sky.
This raises the question as to why emperors would be buried in such a way that they're actually being memorialized and being seen from the sky.
The Japanese believed that the royal family was descended from gods that came from the sky. So we have to wonder, is this a way for the extraterrestrials to identify the tombs of their ancestors?
Could the thousands of Kofun dotting the Japanese islands contain the bodies of extraterrestrial beings? Strangely, in 2016, researchers studying high-resolution photos of the surface of Mars spotted an eerily similar keyhole-shaped mound.
Is this possibly a Kofun found on Mars, bearing some lost extraterrestrial god? If so, we can see that there's definitely a connection between what we're seeing on Mars as some type of Kofun burial site and over 160,000 of these found all over Japan.
Could the Kofuns in Japan and the alleged structure on Mars contain definitive proof of a link to beings from outside our world? To investigate this theory further, Giorgio Tsoukalos and Takiharu Mikami were granted special access to one of Japan's oldest tombs, the Ishibutai Kofun.
Oh man, it's gigantic.
It's a megalith from 6th century AD.
Okay. これ一番大きいもので77トン。
The largest rock on this tumulus weighs about 77 tons.
Have they calculated the weight of all the rocks combined?
もう全部足すとですね。
Altogether, this will weigh about 2,300.
Wow, that's incredible. Can we go inside?
Yes.
All right. Wow. So I presume one of these blocks up there is the one that's 77 tons. We would have great difficulty achieving that today. And I'm not saying we can't do it. Of course we can do it. Well, we would use sophisticated, high-tech, heavy machinery.
Excavation visits have found wooden sleds that are said to have been the tools they used to drag and carry these large rocks across the fields. However, we don't know exactly how and from where these rocks were carried from.
Yeah, I completely and utterly disagree with that notion. You put 77 tons on wood, it crushes into dust. So that's wonderful that these sleds were found, but I highly doubt that 77 tons were on wooden sleds, because I've once seen a 5-ton block being placed on wooden rollers and it got crushed into oblivion. This area here, it's very hilly, mountainous. So in those ancient texts, does it say how these stones were moved into position?
Traditionally, there were a group of very skilled artisans or architects who held a lot of secret skills and technology that was only kept to them. But unfortunately, we don't know what exactly those skills and technologies were.
I agree that there was engineering knowledge that has been lost. And to build something like this, does he presume that this knowledge may have come from some of those kamis or celestial beings that are in Japanese mythologies?
So the further back in history we go, the greater these monuments become.
Yes.
So the technology was there from the very beginning, and if we go back in time to follow these roots of these beings, we will go back to prehistoric times of the era, the age of the kamis or the deities. Ancient Japanese Shintoists believed that once you die, you would be put into a coffin that was shaped like a boat and then travel to the land of the gods.
You know, that's so fascinating, because there are stories of flying boats all around the world. In ancient Egypt, you have the sun barges descending from the sky. In Native American cultures, you have the flying canoes. Why would they label a boat a flying boat? Well, could it be perhaps because they didn't have the vocabulary to say airplane?
Now, I don't think our ancestors pulled this out of their own imagination. I think they actually saw flying boats, and thus the legends were born.
Might the Ishibutai Kofun have been built with the help of extraterrestrial beings? Beings that were also present on Mars in the distant past. Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest further clues can be found by examining another mysterious megalithic structure. One that some believe represents the so-called flying boats that, according to the ancient Japanese stories, were used to travel to the land of the gods. (1803) in the Hitachi province. Local fishermen on the Harayadori shore spot an unusual craft drifting in the distance. When the vessel washes ashore, they are astonished by what they witness.
This craft was likened to the shape of a Japanese incense burner. It is almost literally a flying disc, a flying saucer. On the outside of this craft were multiple small metal plates, not too dissimilar to heat-resistant tiles that you find, say, on a space shuttle.
A hatch opened, and a young woman came out of the craft, dressed in clothes that had never been seen before, and speaking a language that nobody understood in the slightest.
When they looked inside the craft, they could see hieroglyphs and strange writing all inside of the craft.
The story of the strange Tsurobune craft appears in 3 different Japanese texts. Even today, modern historians struggle to understand what this means. Nobody can really decipher this.
Japanese today are very familiar with this story, and to them, this is a curious story of one of the gods of their ancestry who had somehow arrived there on the island in this mysterious craft and then departed.
Could the Tsurobune incident have marked the return of extraterrestrial beings that were present in Japan in the distant past? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and claim further evidence can be found by examining a strange monolithic stone that many believe was carved to resemble the very craft that have been visiting Japan for thousands of years. April 2017, in Asuka Park, Japan.
Does that say rock ship?
Masuda rock ship.
Oh, all right.
Giorgio Tsoukalos and ancient astronaut theorist Takaharu Mikami set out to examine Masuda no Iwafune, an 800-ton rock structure that was carved from a single piece of granite and resembles no other architecture in Japan.
Check out this square grid on the sides. I mean, this is something that I've seen before in India, in Mahabalipuram. And they had something very similar on the side of some of their rocks as well. I can't wait to see the top. Amazing. Oh, man.
Whoa.
Wow, that is... I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
While some researchers believe the Masuda no Iwafune megalith is a tomb, others claim it's meant to depict the skyboats that are described in ancient Japanese stories.
So the idea is that this was the entrance to a Buddhist temple. What do they mean by that? Inside, I mean, where?
It would actually predate Buddhism in Japan, so it wouldn't have anything to do with Buddhist temples.
Right. So what is the actual translation of Masuda no Iwafune?
Masuda is the name of a region, And Iwafune literally means stone ship or rock ship.
Okay.
Yes, it's naturally the Iwafune or the rock ship would have come down from the heavens as a vehicle for the gods to descend upon earth.
So I guess with the combination of the mythologies of celestial beings, this could be some type of representation of one of those flying vehicles that our ancestors perhaps witnessed.
Could the Masuda no Iwafune have been carved to resemble the so-called flying boats that were referred to in ancient Japanese texts? And was a similar alien craft witnessed by Japanese fishermen in 1803? Perhaps further clues can be found by examining much more recent UFO sightings and the long-held belief that Japan's imperial family has a connection. Coming up.
Multiple witnesses cited a fleet of UFOs right over the city.
The erratic movements and patterns suggest that these are possibly being controlled by some extraterrestrial species.
Throughout history, the butcher has been the key to survival. With sharp tools and even sharper skills. Now, it's time for the meatiest competition ever.
It's about being a true craftsman. Woo! Coming through now. Making bacon.
You will have 60 minutes for this challenge. I have never butchered anything like this before. 3, 2, 1.
Nobody remembers second place.
The Butcher starts Thursday at 10, brand new to history.
I put my entire career on the line because I believe in what I believe.
He ran the Pentagon's top secret UFO program.
They tracked 100 of these things.
Leading a team of government insiders.
People from the CIA, the Department of Defense, all wanted to be a part of this.
Who for the first time have come out of the shadows to reveal what they know.
I don't really care if it's a threat, it's a threat.
Unidentified. Mondays at 9, brand new to history.
Even in a small town like this, awful things happen.
One murder in Ipswich is unusual. We have a double murder on our hands.
It was dreadful. I just didn't know what to do.
This was something that was frightening, very frightening.
I'm hoping Christmas we'll never have to go through this again.
Sydney Darlington was thrust into a horror movie.
It's tormented a lot of people, and you just don't know when it's going to end.
Murder Town returns. It's closer than you think.
Murder Town with Catherine Kelly starts Monday the 16th of September at 9. New and exclusive to Crime and Investigation.
The 7th century BC in Kyushu, Japan. According to Japan's earliest known historical texts, Kojiki and Nihon Shoki, it is from this point that the country's first ruler, Emperor Jimmu, set out to conquer and unify the Japanese islands.
He seems to have come out of Kyushu, the southern island, and moved across Japan to find a better place to center the government and center his realm, conquering people along the way, and eventually settles in the Yamato region. And that becomes the center of Japan's government all the way until it moves to Tokyo in 1868.
As he was working his way northwards, he was actually assisted by a divine crow, a three-legged crow known as Yatagarasu. Yatagarasu loosely translates to eight-span crow, so we can imagine that this crow would have been extremely large. In some instances, Yatagarasu is also depicted within a fiery orb in the sky.
This so-called crow guided him on his journey and advised him in military matters to ensure his success. And when you look at ancient depictions of this crow, it is often depicted inside some kind of an orb, this circular disc. So if you look at that, you have to ask,
what exactly were the ancient Japanese talking about here? Because this to me sounds more like he was being guided by some kind of a flying craft than an actual crow.
Could Japan's first Emperor Jimmu and the imperial family today be direct descendants of extraterrestrials? And might the three-legged crow, Yatagarasu, really have been an alien craft? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest further evidence can be found by examining a military coup designed to cover up this extraterrestrial heritage. (1183) in Kyoto, Japan. Military General Minamoto no Yoritomo besieges the capital city of Japan, forcing the current emperor, Antoku, and his bodyguard to flee. For nearly 700 years after, military dictatorships known as shoguns maintained strict control over Japan. Isolationist policies allowed few to enter or exit the islands, with death as the ultimate penalty. Only in 1867 did Shogun Tokugawa Yoshinobu, facing a revolt from the Japanese people, relinquish control of the government back to the emperor.
The Meiji Emperor, who was the first of the emperors after the Restoration, made a point of tracing his lineage all the way back to Emperor Jimmu and to Amaterasu as well. So this notion of a divine emperor, of a living kami at the head of Japan was resuscitated.
They wanted to return to the original Japanese empire, the one founded by Jimmu in his connection with the extraterrestrial beings. What happened after this is extraordinary. Suddenly, Japan takes off. It starts accelerating in its technological ability. It suddenly becomes a world-conquering nation.
By the early 20th century, Japan was a superpower, and it had amassed a vast colonial empire rivaling that of the greatest Western colonial empires. And what Japan accomplished in modernization in the span of 20 years, it took most European nations about 200 or even 300 years to accomplish.
So you have to wonder, with the reinstating of the royal family, was this also a reconnection to the technical and extraterrestrial past that had begun centuries ago in Japan and is now continuing today, possibly with the guidance of extraterrestrials?
Could Japan's meteoric rise to power be a direct result of reinstating the divine, perhaps extraterrestrial dynasty originally established by Emperor Jimmu? And is this why some of Japan's top government officials have recently made statements supporting the notion that alien visitation is real? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest further evidence of an alien presence in Japan today can be found by examining a recent mass UFO sighting.
In July 2015, multiple witnesses in and around the city of Osaka sighted a fleet of UFOs moving in a quite extraordinary fashion in broad daylight right over the city.
And various people caught them from different angles on camera. Now, the government was quick to dismiss them as candles or lanterns in the sky, but the erratic movements and patterns suggested that they were technological in nature.
Similar white orbs were reported 4 years earlier during one of the worst environmental disasters in mankind's history. On the 26th of March 2011, 2 weeks after the meltdown at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant in Okuma, Japan, a fleet of white orbs was recorded hovering over the site.
if we go back and look at the history of the UFO subject, we find a deal of interest with, for example, our atomic energy plants, our nuclear missile silos, and it suggests to me that maybe we're seeing alien entities who are deeply concerned by our usage of atomic power.
Could the white orbs witnessed above Osaka and Fukushima be alien craft belonging to the same celestial beings the Japanese trace back to their very origins? Perhaps further clues can be found by examining recent attempts by Japanese astronomers to make contact with extraterrestrial beings. (1983) in Tokyo, Japan. At the University of Tokyo Astronomical Observatory, astronomers Hisaishi Hirabayashi and Masaki Morimoto target a telescope towards the star Altair. Using radio waves, they transmit a short binary encoded message in an attempt to contact extraterrestrial life.
This was a groundbreaking piece of history in terms of the search for extraterrestrial life. This message basically told information regarding human life, human history, DNA, and also the location of the Earth itself. So any potential extraterrestrials living in the vicinity of Altair would potentially know where we're coming from.
The star of Altair is 16 light years away from Earth, and so it was expected that the binary message would reach that star by around 1999. And now, from 2015 on, the Japanese are expecting some kind of reply from their signal.
Now, what's particularly intriguing is that Altair actually represents one of the ancient Japanese gods. This makes me wonder if the scientific community had come to a conclusion that perhaps their ancient god, represented by Altair, may not have been a god after all.
So you have to wonder here, are these Japanese astronomers trying to contact the extraterrestrial gods that they believe came to Earth and started the Japanese civilization? It would seem so.
In 2010, JAXA, Japan's national space program, announced plans to establish a base on the moon by the year 2020. And recently, the Shimizu Corporation unveiled designs for their Lunar Ring project, a massive band of solar panels surrounding the moon that would beam limitless clean power back to Earth.
When you look at all this together, you can't help but wonder what's going on here. Is it about reaching out to extraterrestrials, or is it perhaps about using extraterrestrial knowledge and technology that the Japanese already have?
This suggests that the Japanese people are serious about colonizing space and maybe working with extraterrestrials on developing this enormously advanced technology.
Is it possible that there is a link between Japan's technological advancements and the country's connection to extraterrestrial beings? And are these beings the same otherworldly entities that have been influencing the development of Japanese culture for thousands of years? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and believe the proof lies not only at various locations found throughout the Japanese landscape, but also on Earth's neighbouring planets, and one in particular, soon to be explored.
Today our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature. None of us will ever forget this day.
Some of the worst attacks in history.
The Home Secretary has called it a barbaric attack.
And they just said stopped. Everything just stopped.
Told by those who lived through them.
Everything went black and I passed out. Really think I'm going to die out here.
And
I've never seen that much destruction at one scene.
And those who fight against
U.S. Navy SEALs are exactly the right weapon to use against them.
We should absolutely not be under any illusions of anywhere close to the end of this war.
a season of documentaries that explore how terrorism reshaped our world.
This is going to take time, and we will have to go after them wherever they are.
Inside Terrorism starts Sunday at 9 with Road to 9/11 on History 2.
The signs of aging can make you look older than you feel, and the fight to keep your face feeling and looking younger can feel like a losing battle. Presenting Dermawan, a radio frequency home beauty treatment that will help give you a younger feeling, younger looking face. Use Dermawan daily to treat the skin on your neck for a tighter, more even-toned appearance and more rejuvenated feel. I couldn't believe the difference. Without Dermawand, I'd still be hiding behind the scarves. Dermawand is easy to use, and your face will look more radiant, feel younger, and look younger. Dermawand's energy bulb delivers trioxygen and gentle microcurrent to the skin's surface at 100,000 cycles per second, so your skin feels tighter, looks smoother, healthier. Your face will feel younger and look younger. Plus, women who use Dermawand felt their skin fold's appearance had been reduced.
As a plastic surgeon, I work a lot with the skin, and it's amazing the difference I actually see in the patients that have had the Dermawand.
I know my skin looks great. The tone is there. I have a youthful glow. That's the one product I never want to be without. I love my Dermawand.
Improve your facial complexion and join the millions of women who've already purchased Dermawand. Your skin will feel more refreshed and stimulated, improving the global appearance of your skin. Dermawand users felt their complexion looked more even. They felt improved skin tone. Their skin felt more alive, with a moister, less dry feel. And users said they'd recommend Dermawand to their friends. Use Dermawand daily to improve your own facial complexion.
It's just a great, fresh feeling. I can't tell you enough about how much I love my Dermawand.
Try Dermawand yourself, risk-free for 30 days. Plus, receive over 40 pounds worth of Dermavital skincare, free. If you're not entirely happy, return it for a complete refund. Dermawand really can help your face feel younger and look younger. So call the number on your screen or order online now at dermawand.co.uk.
No Pro lives up to its promise of no hair with no pain.
It doesn't hurt, and it gives you the smooth skin that you're after.
Use pain-free No on your unwanted hair.
I've always been self-conscious of my hairline, so putting my hair back, this will be perfect for me.
With millions of satisfied customers around the world, you'll love No too.
I've been self-conscious about my upper lip hair, but having the No has made me not have to worry about that.
No Pro is based on a patented pulse thermocon technology, and No Pro delivers an even greater thermal pulse to each hair, all with no pain.
Can't believe the difference, Al. It's almost hair-free.
And get this, 97% of users would recommend No to a friend. 100% safe, No works on your face, around your chin and lip areas, also under your arms, and of course your legs, and lots of other places. And No works on all skin types and hair colors. And men use No too.
Now that I'm trying it, it feels completely painless.
I don't consider myself a vain person by any means, but I've always been very self-conscious about the hair growth on my back. Finding the No changed everything.
97% of users rated No as their all-in-one hair removal solution. And you too can get great-looking results.
Just try No. I did. I saw the adverts. I tried No. It worked for me. It works for my clients. It's amazing.
Call or go online now to order No Pro and receive No Smooth After Treatment Hydrating Moisturizer. Also receive this LED beauty tip to perform full facial treatments. Call or go online for this sensational 30-day money-back guarantee TV-only offer and receive No Smooth plus the LED beauty tip. Together, these two additional beauty products are worth £68. Call or click today. No hair with no pain.
The Allies are preparing an invasion.
Do you really think we can do this? They're cutting us off.
No one is protecting them. Nothing is safe. Safe for this all contacts.
I know where they are right now.
He's planning an attack. Stop fighting, company.
I'm scared.
The second series of X Company starts Tuesday the 3rd of September, new to history. Since 1931, 5 families have run New York's Italian-American mafia, the most prolific organized crime unit in the world. Now, undercover detective Colin McLaren examines 6 notorious mobsters.
He became sort of a folk hero.
Sammy destroyed organized crime.
Even though he wasn't well built, he was a ferocious fighter.
He was here. Yeah, he was the killer.
He had a very weird double life.
It was all about power and money.
Mafia Killers. Mondays at 10. Brand new to history.
This administration is relying on law and order.
On the narrow plain of Marathon, in eastern Greece, a battle that would alter the course of Western civilization was about to commence. On one side was the army of the Persian Empire, the most powerful fighting force in the world. Opposing the Persians was the army of Athens, only half the size, led by the celebrated Greek general Miltiades. This was a battle of strategic genius in the face of overwhelming odds, a battle for the future of Greece, and for supremacy over the ancient world. 2 civilizations were about to collide. East met West at Marathon. Death came swiftly. For 6 days, a savage attack delivered by a faceless invader stained the ground red. Those not slaughtered were enslaved. The aggressors were the heavy infantry of the mighty Persian Empire. They were called immortals. The victims were the people of the Greek city of Eritrea on the island of Euboea. 600 Persian warships had put to sea in the Aegean and swallowed up every Greek island in their path. But Euboea was not their final destination. They had set a course for Athens, and their intention was to destroy the city utterly.
They moved across, there's an island chain across the eastern Mediterranean in an island hopping campaign, much like the United States did during World War II in Japan, of capturing small islands, turning them into logistics bases, and then finally being in a position where you could attack Athens.
Nothing could stop the Persian war machine. From Eritrea, the warship set sail for Athens.
Persians eat cities the size of Athens for breakfast. They're so confident of success that they load up their ships with marble along the way so they can build a victory monument once they burn Athens to the ground.
The Persian Empire was vast. Its borders extended from the Indus River in India to the River Nile in Egypt.
Persia was the greatest empire the world had ever known, not only in geographic terms, but in manpower terms, millions and millions of people. Also, one of the highest cultures that the world had known, in everything from architecture to art to writing to design. Actually, it was a multinational empire. There were more nationalities and religions in the Persian Empire than had ever existed.
Confident he will be able to destroy the historic city, the only question in his mind was exactly how he would go about it.
He can either attack Athens directly from the sea, is one possibility. This is a bit difficult. Athens is walled, and an amphibious assault from the sea against opposition is pretty iffy business. So he decides not to attack Athens head on, rather to pick a spot about 25 miles away from the city along his line of route, and to land there and figure one of 2 things would happen.
Either the Greek army responds and comes out to meet him, or he would land, assemble his army, and simply march on to Athens from the ground. So given the choice between the land campaign or an amphibious landing of Athens itself, he chooses the land campaign.
Datis navigated his fleet of 600 vessels to a point about 26 miles from Athens, at Marathon. He moored the fleet in a shallow, sheltered bay and disembarked on the Shinias beach. The Persians then made camp on the northeast side of the plain alongside the Great Marsh.
The Persian army is about to slam into Athens like a Category 5 hurricane. The Athenians know surrender isn't an option. They're divided on how to prepare. Should they hunker down behind the city walls or march out to meet the Persians in battle?
Some in Athens believed that an open field battle against the Persians would be an act of suicide. But one Athenian disagreed. His name was Miltiades, and he knew a lot about the Persians.
Miltiades is a very interesting character. He comes from a prominent family in Athens, and when he's about 35, he takes over a Greek colony in Ionia, on the edge of the Persian Empire. He rules there as a tyrant. This makes him very unpopular in Athens.
In the late 6th century BC, Miltiades' home on the Hellespont Peninsula was engulfed by the rapidly expanding Persian Empire. He was forced into military service. Wielding a Persian sword, he had to fight alongside the conquerors against his own people. The Persians spread north, crossed the Danube, and invaded Scythia, a vast territory covering present-day Eastern Europe and highest opportunity.
3 years after his arrival in Athens, Miltiades faces the death sentence for tyranny, but he's got an ace in the hole. He knows the Persian game.
And the Persians were on their way, intending to raze Athens to the ground.
The Athenians not only spare Miltiades' life, they make him a general. But Miltiades has to wonder which fate is worse, execution or being hacked to little bitty bits by the Persian warriors.
Miltiades chose to face the Persian blades, and rather than hide behind the walls of Athens, he preferred to meet the enemy on open ground.
But the final decision on whether to fight is not his to make. Athenian democracy extends to the army too. So when an argument erupts over what to do at Marathon, the council of 10 generals must decide what to do. Attack now, or retreat and try to get help from other Greek city-states.
The vote is 5-5. The tie-breaking vote falls to a man named Callimachus. He is the polemarch. It's a ceremonial position in the Athenian army. Miltiades makes an impassioned case to Callimachus, saying, "It's up to you whether Athens is reduced to slavery or rises to become the greatest of all the Greek city-states." He explains that failure to fight now will shatter the democracy along factional lines and make them easy prey for the Persians. Callimachus is convinced, and he votes to attack.
Miltiades got his war. He led the entire Athenian army, roughly 10,000 strong, 26 miles east to the plain of Marathon. The odds were overwhelmingly against Miltiades. The Persian force was colossal, more than twice the size of the Athenian army. It boasted 20,000 infantry, 3,000 archers, and 2,000 cavalry.
Miltiades takes a look at the situation and realizes immediately he's severely outnumbered. He's not only outnumbered, he's outgunned in the sense that there are fairly substantial archer and cavalry contingents.
Even if the Athenians managed to withstand the Persian infantry, they had no way of countering the Persian war horses.
Cavalry is one of the keys to Persian military success. They were one of the first armies to fully integrate horses and heavy infantry for a devastating 1-2 punch.
But they had cut their teeth on some of the finest warriors of the ancient world. For centuries, two Greek city-states had shed each other's blood over and over again. 50 years before Miltiades faced the Persians, a conflict erupted between them that would ultimately lead to the Battle of Marathon.
It's time to face the truth. Ancient Aliens. Weekdays from 12 on History 2.
At Sky Vegas, there's plenty to discover. Take the prize machine. Now that's definitely worth a visit. It's got suspense, anticipation every time those reels spin. And it's got thousands of great prizes too. From cash to free spins and free bets. They're all there, ready to be won. What a beauty. And you want to know the best bit? It's free and available to play daily from 12 p.m.
Only at Sky Vegas, the UK's most popular online casino.
It's here. The Amazon end of summer sale is now on. With amazing offers on electronics, gaming, kitchen and home appliances, as well as everything else you might need. The Amazon end of summer sale is full of surprises. Now on.
What you're about to see is based on a true insurance claim. In this reconstruction, Margaret Mahoney is played by Jill Compario. It was just another normal day in Margaret's normal life, but a chance encounter would turn her world upside down. We never know what's around the corner, which is why Go Compare now gives £250 free excess cover for when the unexpected happens. Oh, yeah.
This is Alan. He's an equity release advisor with Age Partnership, and he loves his job. Through rain or shine, he helps people access the money they've built up in their home. Alan gets to explain to homeowners over 55 how they can release tax-free money from their home, how they would not have to repay the money until they passed away or moved into long-term care, and how they would clear any existing mortgage. Speak to Age Partnership to request your free
need, which could lead to problems for your hair. Vitamin zinc and biotin contribute to the maintenance of normal hair. Try Viviscal Max Strength Supplements. Viviscal has been specially formulated to include biotin, zinc, and amino C. It's one of the most scientifically researched brands, with visible results in 3 months. Help maintain normal hair. Try Viviscal today, available online and in stores.
At LV, our car insurance comes from the heart. That's why you could save over 20% with our multi-car policy. It's the cheapest way to get cover for your household when you switch to LV. So, just imagine if you insure 2, 3 or more cars with us, how much you could save. For an exclusive multi-car discount from a Which recommended provider for car insurance, go direct to lv.com.
So what is backing and laying on the Betfair Exchange? Well, see this couple, I'm betting on them to be this guy's next target. That's called backing. Matt here, his money's on that not happening, and that's called laying a bet. So if the violinist goes to anyone else, Matt takes my money. You can't win them all. The Betfair Exchange.
We never know what's around the corner, which is why Go Compare now gives £250 free excess cover for when the unexpected happens.
BMW 3 Series, I see.
Yeah.
Less than 6 months old.
Sure.
But does it do this?
He's worked so hard.
Stop it!
No, but we rented it for only £39 from 6, so... Wait.
6. Drive smug. Throughout history, the butcher has been the key to survival. With sharp tools and even sharper skills. Now, it's time for the meatiest competition ever.
Just about being a true craftsman. Woo! Come us through now. Making bacon.
You will have 60 minutes for this challenge. I have never butchered anything like this before.
3, 2, 1. Nobody remembers second place.
The Butcher starts Thursday at 10, running into history.
(540 BC), 50 years before the Battle of Marathon. 2 Greek city-states, Athens and Sparta, attacked each other on the open battlefield.
The rivalry between Athens and Sparta is kind of like Michigan versus Ohio State, except with spears. They constantly seek any advantage they can over one another. While most of their battles are, provincial squabbles, one of them gets the Persians involved and eventually leads to the Battle of Marathon.
Athens is celebrated as the cradle of democracy and philosophy. Sparta, its neighbor to the west, was quite different.
Imagine that the U.S. Marines had their own country. That's Sparta. They train constantly, weapons, tactics, armor. It's pretty much all they do. Now, the Athenian-Spartan relationship is very bipolar. Sometimes they help each other, and sometimes they fight.
At the time, Athens was governed by a man named Hippias. He was, however, very unpopular with the Athenian aristocracy, so a coup was planned, and Hippias was overthrown by the patricians with the assistance of an unlikely ally, Sparta.
Now, the problem with the Spartans helping you is that they wouldn't go home. And that was the problem that the Athenians had, was how to get rid of the Spartans. Well, they rose in revolt and drove the Spartans out of Athens. And this is that period about 540 BC, which is the beginning of Athenian democracy at about this time. The problem was this. Inevitably, one would expect the Spartans to counterattack.
Athens knew it needed help to defend itself against Sparta. The city elders decided to approach the Persian emperor.
So that's one of the first examples in Greek history of a smaller state trying to ally itself with a larger state, in this case the Persian Empire, in order to protect itself from aggression of another state, in this case Sparta.
At the court of the governor, the envoys requested his help in a war against Sparta. The Persian governor agreed, but laid down one condition, that the Athenians make a sworn offering of earth and water.
The trouble is, the Athenians don't really understand what the offer of earth and water means. They think they're signing a treaty, just like the treaties they've made in the past with other Greek city-states. But to the Persians, accepting earth and water means they own Athens. It has become their colony.
Without really understanding what they were doing, the envoys submitted to Persian rule over their city. Athens would pay dearly for this misunderstanding.
It made no sense to the rational Greeks. I mean, these are the people who invented logic, mathematics, and philosophy. For them, it was just a silly little ritual that really meant nothing.
Now, the problem then is the same problem now. When you have two cultures reaching an agreement, sometimes that agreement means different things to each party because the cultural context in which it occurs is different.
Athens secured the promise of Persian protection. But Sparta attacked so quickly there was no time to call upon it.
Determined to keep their new democracy, Athenians fight more ferociously than ever. They defeat the Spartan invasion on their own. Now this is important because Athens had asked the Persians for help, but they don't need it. They defeated Sparta all by themselves.
The Athenians now felt that the agreement they had made with the Persians was null and void. They made the terrible mistake of telling the Persians that.
The Persian emperor, Darius I, was incandescent with rage.
It amounted, in the Persian view, to little more than an open revolt, and Darius resolved that he was going to bring Athens to heel.
Darius dispatched functionaries to Athens to demand the customary taxes payable by a vassal state to the empire. The Athenians threw them into a pit and left them to die. Athens had spat in the face of the world's most powerful empire.
Throughout history, alliances often come with unintended consequences, but few have the magnitude of the treaty between Athens and Persia. If the Athenians never asked for Persian help against the Spartans, the world might be a completely different place today. It sets off centuries of conflict between the East and the West.
And the first major battle was at Marathon, where over 20,000 Persian infantry, cavalry, and archers were preparing to burn Athens to the ground. The 10,000 Greek infantry of General Miltiades were colossally outnumbered, but the Athenian general did possess one advantage over his enemy.
How does he offset the inferiorities that he suffers relative to the Persian forces? And the answer, as almost always in antiquity, is the same. Terrain, terrain, terrain. Location, location, location.
Historians continue to debate which precise route the Persians would have taken to get from Marathon to Athens. Some think they would have gone along the coast, a route that passes through the Vrexisa swamp.
But then you would have had to go through a swamp, which was doable. But then you would have been a problem where the Persian army would have been in column of march, trying to gain the road with the Athenian army on its flank. Always a bad idea.
The only other way to Athens lay through the mountains, starting at the pass called the Vrana Valley.
If the Persian army intends to invade Athens, it's got to go through the mouth of that valley. And it's not very wide. It's not very wide. So what Miltiades does, he decides to block the valley. And he deploys his troops in the mouth of the Vrana Valley in order to make it impossible for the Persians to advance further.
Miltiades positioned his infantry in the valley like a cork in a bottle. The Athenian phalanx was made up of lines of tightly interlocking warriors. They could move forward and back easily, but not from side to side.
The phalanx formation is incredibly effective at holding ground and moving forward. With rows of men packed tightly together, they use each other's overlapping shields to form an armored wall.
Miltiades anchors his flanks on the rocky sides of the hill, and then goes about chopping down trees to put them on the flanks as well. Why does he do this? He's well aware of the fact that the weakness of the Greek phalanx is its flanks. Whenever it has died in battle, it has died because it's been taken in the flanks, either by another phalanx or mostly by cavalry.
In the steep, narrow valley, the flanks of the phalanx were well protected.
So, not going to rely on the steepness of the rocks alone, you pile it with brush and trees and logs so that there can't be any cavalry attack. So just by positioning his troops where he has essentially taken the cavalry out of the fight. Brilliant maneuver.
Datis, the Persian commander, seemed not overly concerned and assembled his infantry for the attack. For 3 days the Persians deployed in line of battle, but the Greeks chose not to engage them and stayed inside their protected area.
It wins the day if there's no fight at all. Its job essentially is to protect Athens by blocking the road. So if you would like to stay here for several weeks, that was quite okay with Miltiades. It's not okay, of course, with the Persians.
Finally, in frustration, the Persians initiated an attack. The Athenians stood to and braced themselves for combat. But the Persians didn't deploy their infantry immediately. First, the archers launched a blistering hail of arrows.
If you imagine this wall of mist literally blocking out the sun, raining down on the But you know what? The Athenians brushed the arrow fire away like annoying gnats.
Thousands of Persian arrows resulted in very few Athenian casualties. And despite being outnumbered at least 2 to 1, the Greeks, encouraged by their leader, General Miltiades, taunted the Persians. But the Persian juggernaut had only one goal: to break through the Greek phalanx, march to Athens, and raze it to the ground.
Exactly what happens next is up for debate. Every historian has his theory of what went down at Marathon and why. And that's because we only have one real source, the Greek historian Herodotus.
The problem is that Herodotus is more like the world's first blogger than an objective historian. He blends events, myths, anecdotes, hearsay into this great story, but nobody in their right mind believes it's all true. So who attacked who first at Marathon and why? Well, from the Athenian position, there's no need to attack anyone.
But Datis, the Persian commander, was itching for a fight. After the failed archery attack, there was only one thing for him to do.
All that's left is a frontal assault. Now you're going to have to mix it up head-on, one-on-one.
10,000 Persian light infantrymen charged across the plain of Marathon. Waiting for them was the Athenian phalanx, a gleaming bronze wall of spears and shields. Over 1 million pounds of flesh and bone collided. Crucial to the Athenians' wall was the hoplon shield.
The Greek shield, known as the hoplon, is more than just a glorified garbage can lid. It's a revolutionary innovation in warfare.
The hoplon was a large circular shield, shaped a shallow dish, made of wood and covered in bronze. It could withstand arrows and punishing sword strikes without splintering. And what made it truly remarkable is what was called an argive grip. The soldier passed his arm through a leather loop in the middle of the shield and grasped a handle near the rim.
And why this is important is it gives you very good control and much more force with the shield, whereas the old tether grip in the center wouldn't allow you to produce a lot of force with it.
The Athenians halted the sudden assault. Then they went on the offensive. The Greeks' main weapon was a heavy spear made of ash called the dory. 7 feet long and tipped with a sharp iron spear point, the dory could penetrate shields and armor. This spear was not thrown. An infantryman stabbed his opponent with it, with gruesome results. In the 6th century BC, most Athenian warriors wore lightweight lamellar armor, made of bonded strips of linen and leather. However, some men wore heavy, rigid cuirasses, bronze plates modeled to resemble a muscled torso. Bronze helmets with flamboyant horsehair plumes covered the head, while greaves protected the leg below the knee. In full battle gear, the hoplites were armored head to toe.
Problem for the Persians at Marathon is they're up against the determined Athenian phalanx that doesn't scatter during the arrow barrage. The Persian light infantry also doesn't have their usual cavalry support, so it's just sickle swords and wicker shields against a bronze wall of Athenians.
The Persian commander, Datis, ordered wave after wave of light infantry assaults. Each time, however, the soldiers impaled themselves on the bristling wall of Athenian spears. But the Persians were relentless.
The issue of imperial prestige is at stake. I mean, what in all hell's name could possibly have motivated this pipsqueak of a nation, this backwater, to insult the largest empire on earth?
For the Persians, the Battle of Marathon was about more than a broken treaty. It was also a punishment for Athens' support of a revolt against Persia 10 years earlier in nearby Ionia. Once an Athenian Greek colony, Ionia was absorbed as a province of the Persian Empire in 540 BC. But 40 years later, in 500 BC, a local tyrant incited a revolution. The people of Ionia then asked Athens for help.
Athens was seen by her colonies as the kind of the mother country. And my guess, Athens considered herself the mother country. And so when her colonies asked for help, she sent troops. It was a mistake of the first order, to be sure, but that's probably what motivated. It certainly could not possibly be justified on the grounds of rational self-interest.
The Athenians were joined by a force from Eritrea on the nearby island of Euboea. They sailed across the Aegean to Ionia and stormed the capital city of Sardis. It was yet another Athenian insult that the Persians did not intend to forget.
Today our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature.
Some of the worst attacks in history.
I've never seen that much destruction at one scene.
You really think I'm going to die out there?
A season of documentaries that explore how terrorism reshaped our world.
We will have to go after them wherever they are.
Inside Terrorism starts Sunday at 9 with Road to 9/11 on History 2.
The signs of aging can make you look older than you feel, and the fight looking younger can feel like a losing battle. Presenting Dermawan, a radiofrequency home beauty treatment that will help give you a younger feeling, younger looking face. Use Dermawan daily to treat the skin on your neck for a tighter, more even-toned appearance and more rejuvenated feel.
I couldn't believe the difference. Without Dermawand, I'd still be hiding behind the scarves.
Dermawand is easy to use, and your face will look more radiant, feel younger, and look younger. Dermawand's energy bulb delivers trioxygen and gentle microcurrent to the skin's surface at 100,000 cycles per second, so your skin feels tighter, looks smoother, healthier. Your face will feel younger and look younger. Plus, women who use Dermawand felt their skin fold's appearance had been reduced.
As a plastic surgeon, I work a lot with the skin, and it's amazing the difference I actually see in the patients that have had the Dermawand.
I know my skin looks great. The tone is there. I have a youthful glow. That's the one product I never want to be without. I love my Dermawand.
Improve your facial complexion and join millions of women who've already purchased Dermawand. Your skin will feel more refreshed and stimulated, improving the global appearance of your skin. Dermawand users felt their complexion looked more even. They felt improved skin tone. Their skin felt more alive, with a moister, less dry feel. And users said they'd recommend Dermawand to their friends. Use Dermawand daily to improve your own facial complexion.
It's just a great, fresh feeling. I can't tell you enough about how much I love my Dermawand.
Try Dermawand yourself, risk-free for 30 days. Plus, receive over 40 pounds worth of Dermavital skincare. Dermawand really can help your face feel younger and look younger. So call the number on your screen or order online now at dermawand.co.uk.
Aging. It's something we can't escape. And maybe, like me, you haven't looked after your skin, and now you are suffering with those wrinkles, bags, and dark circles around the eyes. Well, I have the answer for you right here. My Perfect Eyes is what Marie Claire Online reported as the latest miracle eye cream. Starting in under 60 seconds, My Perfect Eyes reduces the appearance of those unwanted wrinkles, bags, and dark circles, and it lasts for up to 8 hours. I had no idea you could get a result like this. I'm absolutely amazed. Just look at the difference. And guess what? It is so easy to apply. Watch this time lapse, and in just 60 seconds, you will start to see how effective My Perfect Eyes really is. Call the number on your screen or go to myperfecteyes.co.uk and get yours at our lowest price of just $29.99. Imagine just how much younger and more confident you could feel. We had UK dermatherapist Dr. Hugo Kitchen put it to the test using a clinical Visio scanner. He was amazed with the results and how a cosmetic quick fix could remove the appearance of wrinkles so quickly.
My Perfect Eyes does exactly what it promises.
You know, it really does work. It's amazing.
Take advantage of our 30-day no-quibble money-back guarantee and get ready to lose the appearance of those unwanted wrinkles, bags, and dark circles. Call the number on your screen or go to myperfecteyes.co.uk and get yours at our lowest price of just $29.99. Plus, if you're quick and upgrade, we will reward you with our powerful My Perfect Night Cream, valued at $29.99, absolutely free. This amazing offer is also available at your local Lloyds Pharmacy stores or at a Lloyds Pharmacy store within Sainsbury's or online at lloydspharmacy.com.
The Allies are preparing an invasion.
Do you really think we can do this? They're cutting us off.
No one is protecting them. Nothing is safe. Safe. Listen. All contacts.
I know where they are right now.
He's planning an attack.
Stop fighting. I'm finished.
I'm scared.
The second series of X Company starts Tuesday the 3rd of September, new to history. 500 BC, 10 years before the Battle of Marathon, the Ionian Revolt had begun. Several Greek contingents, including an Athenian force, attacked Persian-controlled Sardis, the Ionian capital city. They burned it to the ground. The Persian Empire was somewhat disadvantaged by the fact that it was simultaneously waging wars in India, Egypt, and Scythia.
The Ionian rebels score a major blow, but the victory is short-lived. The Persians increased their force levels, and begin to suppress the Ionian revolt.
The Athenians, knowing that discretion was the better part of valor, went home, as did the Eburones. And the Ionian revolt simmered on and off for the next 5 years until it finally simmered out. It flared out, and Persia recaptured the Ionian coast.
But Darius I, the ruler of Persia, was furious and minded to be vindictive. He vowed vengeance.
Darius calls upon his god to grant him vengeance against the Athenians. He even makes a servant come up to him 3 times.
Faceless, they marched into battle in complete silence, seemingly invincible. In addition to their capacity for efficient and ruthless slaughter, the very presence of the immortals forced Miltiades to change his tactics.
Miltiades, although he has prepared the battlefield expertly and to give him every advantage, still suffers from a great disadvantage. And that is the area in which he occupies, although it's relatively narrow, is still wider than he has sufficient troops to cover. What he does is he weakens his center and moves the additional troops out. So that when you look at the deployment of the Athenian force, you're looking at a force that is relatively thin in the center, but has heavy phalanxes on either side.
Weakening the center of his phalanx was a huge gamble. But then Miltiades rolled the dice again. He brought his line out of the sheltering valley into the open.
If he stays where he is, he knows that when the center gets hit, it's going to flex in. The problem when it flexes in, if he stays where he is there's not enough room for his heavy phalanxes on the end to maneuver inward. There's not enough room.
Who, though dead, still crashed through the lines and cut down the living at random. The truth was every bit as terrifying. The Persians surged forward, and the Athenians were beaten back.
The weak center can't withstand the Persian attack. It's about to break. It's getting pushed back towards the valley. The Hoplite Dam is about to burst, and it looks like Athens is doomed.
Miltiades' center was on the brink of collapse. But on the flanks, it was a different story.
The normal tactics for the Persian infantry would have been to put the strongest units in the middle and the weaker units on the wings.
This is because the wings are usually supported by cavalry. Now Miltiades would know this, and it may be why he bolsters his own forces on the flanks.
With the Persian cavalry rendered ineffective by the terrain, the Athenians were able to decimate the weakened Persian flanks. The center of the Athenian line continued to be pushed back, while the flanks held strong.
Herodotus tells us that just before the center broke, they were rallied by their officers to find new courage and actually counterattack. They counterattacked enough to stop the forward movement in the center. And at that point, the heavy phalanxes on the wings, bang, closed in on the side. Took and literally slaughtered them.
In a dazzling stroke of military brilliance, Miltiades had completely turned the tables on the all-conquering Persian army.
I put my entire career on the line because I believe in what I believe in.
He ran the Pentagon's top secret UFO program,
We tracked 100 of these things.
leading a team of government insiders
People from the CIA, the Department of Defense, all wanted to be a part of this.
who for the first time have come out of the shadows to reveal what they know.
I don't really care if it's a threat, it's a threat.
Unidentified, Mondays at 9, brand new to history. Since 1931, 5 families have run New York's Italian-American mafia, the most prolific organized crime unit in the world. Now, undercover detective Colin McLaren examines 6 notorious mobsters.
He became sort of a folk hero.
Sammy destroyed organized crime.
Even though he wasn't well built, he was a ferocious fighter.
He was here. Yeah, he was the killer. He had a really weird double life.
It was all about power and money.
Mafia Killers. Mondays at 10. Brand new to history.
The Battle of Marathon had become a Persian bloodbath. While keeping his flanks anchored, the Athenian general Miltiades had pulled the center of his line back, drawing the Persian infantry into a death trap. Hemmed in on three sides, the Persians couldn't maneuver. They panicked.
One of the reasons for their panic probably was something caused by the fog of war, and by something that happens to men in battle no matter how well they are trained or how well you are disciplined. Every now and again, the disease of fear gets into your soul. And when that happens, and panic gets into your ranks, it's done. You can't stop it, no matter how disciplined you are, how controlled you are.
More than 6,000 Persians were killed. The Athenians lost fewer than 200. Among their dead, however, was Callimachus, whose tie-breaking vote had propelled the Greeks into battle.
Some cite Marathon as the first known example of the pincer maneuver, or what's called a double envelopment. But this isn't truly the case because Miltiades only uses one force, so he does not completely envelop the enemy. The Persians still have an avenue of retreat.
And they used it. The beleaguered Persian troops retreated fast towards the shore.
Some say the Athenians immediately chased the Persians back to their ships, but this is pretty unlikely since the Athenians would be completely exhausted at this point.
What probably happened was that Miltiades rested his battle-weary men until they were fit to go back onto the offensive.
It took a considerable time for the Persians to try to grab what's left, their wounded, their horses, and put them try to get them on the boat. It might have taken, several hours, 8 to 10 hours. At some point, the Greeks were rested, and at some point, they reformed, and now they began, pursuit is too strong a word, they began literally marching towards the beach in order to encourage, let us say, the Persians to leave.
Fighting broke out again as the Persian rearguard tried to protect the retreating soldiers. But the Athenians butchered them and captured 7 of the ships before they could make sail.
Herodotus recounts a story where a Greek soldier grabs a boat with his left hand and has it chopped off by the fleeing Persians. Undaunted, he grabs the boat with his right hand. It also gets chopped off. So the Greek soldier bites the boat and tries to hold it on the beach with his teeth. This is the kind of hyperbole that Herodotus is known for.
The Persian infantry had been routed comprehensively, but the threat to the Greeks wasn't yet over. The Persian commander, Datis, wasn't sailing back to Asia. He had set a course direct for Athens. Miltiades dispatched a messenger from Marathon to Athens to announce the news of the heroic Greek victory.
The Athenian runs the 26 miles from Marathon to Athens, runs into the town square, yells up his hands, Nike, which means victory, and drops dead, probably of a heart attack or a stroke.
And this is where we get the phrase to run a marathon, 26 miles, the distance from Marathon to Athens. But at the same time that this inaugural race is being run, Miltiades realizes that the fight is not yet over.
Once Miltiades realizes what the Persians are doing, he sends another runner back to Athens to alert them. Then he assembles his troops for a forced night march back to the city. It's hard to imagine how tired these infantry guys are at this point, but if they hope to save Athens, they have to keep going.
The Athenians marched all through the night.
It's difficult to know how long it would take the Persian ships to sail to Athens from Marathon, a distance of about 62 miles by sea. While a ship of that day could make the trip in about 10 hours, a lot would depend on the currents, weather condition, weight that the ship was carrying. Also, it's possible that some of the ships with the cavalry might have already sailed for Athens a day or so before. So Miltiades can't be sure if he had won the battle and lost the war.
Early the next morning, Datis entered the harbor at Athens with his menacing fleet of 600 warships. He could see Miltiades and his men watching from high up on the walls of the city.
Datis takes one look at this, understands the difficulties involved in carrying out an opposed amphibious landing, decides better of it, turns to the coxswain, turn the boat around. The fleet turns around and sails back to Persia. In Athens, remains free.
As the Persians disappeared over the horizon, the Athenian infantry could finally celebrate their extraordinary victory at Marathon. To immortalize the triumph, the Athenians constructed one of the most beautiful buildings of the ancient world, the Parthenon, a magnificent temple dedicated to the goddess Athena. Carved on the walls of the Parthenon are 192 figures, one for each of the Athenians slain at Marathon. Following his defeat, Datis returned to the court of Darius I. Some stories suggest that he was executed because of his humiliating failure. And while there's no firm evidence, Xerxes, who 40 years after the catastrophe journeyed to Greece to avenge his father's defeat.
This transmission of the desire for revenge against Athens sets up 40 years later one of the signature battles of Western military history, the last stand of the 300 at the pass of Thermopylae.
At Thermopylae, the great Spartan commander Leonidas employed the same tactics against the Persians that Miltiades had used nearly half a century earlier at Marathon.
Marathon itself is one of those moments that is defining in Western history. In fact, it defines what it is to be Western and Greek over against Persian and Eastern. It's not the end of the story. In fact, it's just the beginning of the story.
The Battle of Marathon informed the ancient world that Persia wasn't invincible. It served as a battle cry for future rebellions throughout the empire. Greece and Persia would continue to clash on and off for the next 100 years. Their struggle catapulted the city-states from obscurity to center stage of the ancient world. The glorious epoch of the golden age of Greece all began on the blood-soaked plain of Marathon.
Today our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature. None of us will ever forget this day.
Some of the worst attacks in history.
The Home Secretary has called it a barbaric attack.
And they just stopped. Everything just stopped.
Told by those who lived through them.
Everything went black and I passed out. I really think I'm gonna die out here.
I've never seen that much destruction at one scene.
And those who fight against them.
U.S. Navy SEALs are exactly the right weapon to use against them. We should absolutely not be under any illusions that we're close to the end of this war.
A season of documentaries that explore how terrorism reshaped our world.
This is going to take time, and we will have to go after them wherever they are.
Inside Terrorism starts Sunday at 9 with Road to 9/11 on History 2.
No Pro lives up to its promise of no hair with no pain.
It doesn't hurt, and it gives you the smooth skin that you're after.
Use pain-free No on your unwanted hair.
I've always been self-conscious of my hairline, so putting my hair back, this will be perfect for me.
With millions of satisfied customers around the world, you'll love No too.
I've been self-conscious about my upper lip hair, but having the No has made me not have to worry about that.
No Pro is based on a patented pulse thermocon technology, and No Pro delivers an even greater thermal pulse to each hair, all with no pain.
Can't believe the difference, Al. It's almost hair-free.
And get this, 97% of users would recommend No-No to a friend. 100% safe, No-No works on your face, around your chin and lip areas, also under your arms and across your legs, and lots of other places. And No-No works on all skin types and hair colors. And men use No-No too.
Now that I'm trying it, it feels completely painless.
I don't consider myself a vain person by any means, but I've always been very self-conscious about the hair growth on my back. Finding the No-No changed everything.
97% of users rated No-No as their all-in-one hair removal solution. And you too can get great-looking results.
Just try No-No. I did. I saw the adverts. I tried No-No. It worked for me. It works for my clients. It's amazing.
Call or go online now to order No-No Pro and receive No-No Smooth After Treatment Hydrating Moisturizer. Also receive this LED beauty tip to perform full facial treatments. Call or go online for this sensational 30-day money-back guarantee TV-only offer and receive No-No Smooth plus the LED beauty tip. Together, these two additional beauty products are worth £68. Call or click today. No-No, no hair with no pain.
The signs of aging can make you look older than you feel, and the fight to keep your face feeling and looking younger can feel like a losing battle. Presenting Dermawan, a radiofrequency home beauty treatment that will help give you a younger feeling, younger looking face. Use Dermawan daily to treat the skin on your neck for a tighter, more even-toned appearance and more rejuvenated feel.
I couldn't believe the difference. Without Dermawand, I'd still be hiding behind the scarves.
Dermawand is easy to use, and your face will look more radiant, feel younger, and look younger. Dermawand's energy bulb delivers trioxygen and gentle microcurrent to the skin's surface at 100,000 cycles per second, so your skin feels tighter, looks smoother, healthier. Your face will feel younger and look younger. Plus, women who use Dermawand felt their skin folds' appearance had been reduced.
As a plastic surgeon, I work a lot with the skin, and it's amazing the difference I actually see in the patients that have had the Dermawan.
I know my skin looks great. The tone is there. I have a youthful glow. That's the one product I never want to be without. I love my Dermawan.
Improve your facial complexion and join the millions of women who already purchased Dermawan. Your skin will feel more refreshed and stimulated, improving the global appearance of your skin. Dermawan users felt their complexion looked more even. They felt improved skin tone. Their skin felt more alive, with a moister, less dry feel. And users said they'd recommend Dermawan to their friends. Use Dermawan daily to improve your own facial complexion.
It's just a great, fresh feeling. I can't tell you enough about how much I love my Dermawand.
Try Dermawand yourself, risk-free for 30 days. Plus, receive over 40 pounds worth of Duravital skincare, free. If you're not entirely happy, return it for a complete refund. Dermawand really can help your face feel younger and look younger. So call the number on your screen or order online now at dermawand.co.uk.
I put my entire career on the line because I believe in what I believe.
He ran the Pentagon's top secret UFO program.
They tracked 100 of these things.
Leading a team of government insiders.
People from the CIA, the Department of Defense, all wanted to be a part of this.
Who for the first time have come out of the shadows to reveal what they know.
I don't really care if it's a threat, it's a threat.
Unidentified. Mondays at 9. Brand new to history.
This administration is
The 17th of September, 1944. Over 20,000 elite airborne troops are unleashed into the skies above Nazi-occupied Holland. Against impossible odds, they must capture vital bridges and pave the way for a lightning strike into Germany. In a race against time, an Allied relief force must battle through to Arnhem Bridge to save a besieged band of airborne brothers.
No question about it. It was a suicide.